Hi, it's nice to meet you here. Think I can probably start the first presentation here in the Black Hat Europe. So, who am I? My name is Alex. What I'm doing is basically researching the SAP and Oracle applications. I found hundreds of vulnerabilities in those applications and so on. This is my colleague Matthew. He will help me to present to you this topic more in details. Yeah, what we do, many things with SAP and Oracle, but this presentation will be kind of a mix of what we usually do with what we don't do usually. So this topic for me is very new type of research. It's very unusual, and how it was started basically when I was just a young penetration tester in about 2006, almost 10 years ago. I was involved in one of the assessments of a large oil and gas company, and they had a retail store with point of sales terminals. It was a petrol station, and they wanted us to analyze security of the software and the hardware in this petrol station. But it was not a simple pen test, like, to find the vulnerability and get access to operation system. They were asking like what the attackers can really do with this access, and the question was because some cyber criminals successfully exploited their system. They put the malware on the software and the hardware, and they were able to steal petrol from the stations using this hardware. So it was a real attack, and we were involved in a forensic investigation, and we tried to analyze the vulnerabilities. That's what it was many years ago, but after that I realized that I want to spend my research not in not only on the technical stuff, how to find the vulnerability, but also how to show the management the real risk and what can happen. And then, during the last years, we were engaged in the large pen tests of the oil and gas companies. We did SAP vulnerability assessment, but their questions were, okay, you have access to SAP, but now what you can do? And I was really thinking, yeah, what I can do with oil and gas company, because most of the pen tests are usually against banking sector, and you can easily say, yeah, we can, have access and steal money, and that's easy. But what you can do with oil and gas company, there was a question, and that what I was trying to understand. So let's start with the oil and gas basics. There are three types of processes, like big process in oil and gas is upstream, midstream, and downstream. And different companies there are some companies who manage the upstream, midstream, and downstream. There are some companies who only manage the one part. So upstream companies is the companies who take some oil from the ground and transfer it to storage. That's it. It's much more complex, but it's just simply the midstream is like some companies who transfer oil from one place to another place, and downstream is basically refining petrochemicals and wholesale, retail, and so on. So it looks like that. Again, we have upstream. It's mostly about the exploration of oil, like the find place where we can drill to take the oil and do some basic things like separation of oil and gas and so on. Then we have a midstream as a storage and processing, and a downstream. So let's look at the details of each of those parts. in upstream, we have those processes that those are the main processes. Of course, we have some more. So extraction is everything that is related to find some place for drilling and actual drilling. Then we have gathering. It's like taking the oil from the ground to the separators. And in separators, of course, because we take it's not oil basically, it's oil plus gas plus water plus sand and a lot of things. So we need to somehow separate it. We have separators. And in each of those parts, there are some small parts. Like in separators, there are different types of separators with different types of pressure. There are heaters, burners, and stuff like that. So in each of those big processes, like there are some small critical processes. So what we have here, again, then for gas, we have compression. For oil, we have some kind of temporary storage. And of course, we have metering. This is one of the critical parts. So we need to measure the quality of oil somehow. Again, it looks not very good, but it's just a graphical presentation how those processes are going. So we have extraction from the wells, then the oil going to the separators, and then to the storage and so on. So the next step is the midstream. In the midstream, we have things like terminal management. So the terminals need to somehow transfer the oil. We need transport oil, transport gas, store this in the different facilities, and manage the storage. And it all looks like that. And again, there are, lots of different places like terminals for barges, for trucks, and for other different parts. So many things. And the last part is the downstream. So here we have refining. Is basically where we need to create the petrol from oil, and we have different petrochemicals. It's a whole new universe. Like it's so many different types of the hardware and software and potential vulnerabilities. So I think that it can be a conference with talks only about different attacks on different types of oil and gas petrochemicals. So it's really this area is really so big. So my talk is just like just the overview. It's not possible to give you detailed information of all the things, but it's like there's some kind of overview. And the things what can happen is here. So those are the main risks, because in oil and gas, so it's mostly about the plant sabotage. It's about the damage for equipment, damage for utilities. There's things like changing the product quality. Like if you have access to refinery, you can change some parameters and the oil will be not so good like as you want it to be, and so on. And in the transportation, there are things like illegal tapping. It's a very big problem in the midstream process, because somebody can make illegal tapping in the oil wells and just steal oil. And there are many examples. If you just Google for illegal pipeline tapping, you will find so many examples of how people stealing oil. And of course, some compliance violations and so on. So those are the things which can happen if somebody can exploit the system. But how it's possible? Let's see. So Let's look at some of the most critical processes. Here I choose just only 3 processes to dive more deeper. So the first one is the separation. Separation consists basically of different things like burn-in management systems, compression control systems, and other stuff. And there are some, and for each of those processes, there are specific software and hardware applications. So when people talk about the ICS security, people mostly talk about the SCADA systems. But when I just started researching oil and gas, I understood that SCADA is like a 1% of things that really exist in oil and gas process. There are so many systems, like ICS systems, which control specific PLC devices and specific meters. So there are burner management systems. There are so many companies who develop different types of burner management systems, and each of them can have specific vulnerabilities and specific types of the configuration issues and so on. And the burn management systems are I think the most interesting because they exist in many processes, in tanks, in heaters, in separators, and so on. So there are different companies who develop it. Mostly those Honeywell, Schneider Electric, Allen Bradley, Emerson. So those are 4 vendors who really have software and hardware for most of the oil and gas systems. So there are some types of flame sensors. Then we have some different PLC devices which monitor the flame sensors. And then there are some management systems which basically manage all the process, like a burner management process. So burner management systems designed to protect heaters from explosion. And if there is a system which is designed to protect from explosion, if we can get access to the system, we can do something bad. And yeah, so let's see. This is the example of very simple burner management system. It consists of the things like gas supply, oil supply, air supply. There are some valves like safety valves. So two safety valves. We have a flame sensor and the other things. It's an example from the simple Siemens burner management system. Okay, for example, if we have access to burner management system, the question is what we can do, because many presentations like, okay, we have access to PLC device and we can do something bad with critical process, but what exactly? And you can read the presentation from Jason Larson. It's very good research about this topic, like what we can do with the access to critical system. But what about the burner management system? So there are 3 components in a fire triangle. We have oxygen, fuel, and heat. And if something will happen with the air-fuel ratio, it's not okay. But if fuel is missing, everything is fine. But if air is missing, it's potentially dangerous, because if air is missing, there's some fuel which can be left in a combustion chamber, and then the next time some fuel is left, and next time you will start the burning process, there will be an explosion. So the idea is, if attacker wants to make some bad things to the burner management critical process, he needs to control the sources of flammable mixtures. And there are four things what can happen. So, for example, oil or gas leaking to combustion chamber because the valves were not properly closed. So some gas can leak to the combustion chamber, or for example, some oil. Next time when you burn the system, when you start the system, will be a potential explosion. And the other thing is, like, if you don't do the purge after every system reboot, because when you shut down the system, some parts of oil can or gas can left in the combustion chamber, and you need to do some purge to clean all the things. And if you don't do that, so the next time you have some small amount of oil in the chamber, then a little bit more, and then when you have a fire, all oil will explode, and this is how it's possible to conduct some kind of attack. There are other things, like, for example, if the heat is not enough, there will be no fire, but the oil valve is open, so oil will be still stored in the tank. So many, different physical types of the attacks. So, and burner management systems, they basically control all those risks. So the question is what you can do with burner management system if you have access to burner management system. The easier thing is to turn off the purge, because if you turn off the open some valves or turn off the ignition, there are some other parts or other sensors which can alert. But if you turn off the purge, so one time you do reboot the system, everything is okay. Next time everything is okay. But after the 5 or 10 system reboots, there will be an explosion. So it's like a very still physical backdoor attack. So it was one deep dive into one of the processes in oil and gas. The other critical part is metering, and one of the most critical parts of metering is fiscal metering or custody transfer, because when, for example, upstream company sells oil to the midstream company, they need to measure this oil, the quantity of oil. It's not like selling the New Balance boots. You know how much boots you have, and you know how to, it's easy to sell. You have 1,000 boots, you sell 1,000 boots. But in oil and gas, you need to have meters with very good quality to do that. Yeah, and those things are called fiscal metering, because if you have a small error in a measurement, like less than 1% or 0.1%, the typical company can waste like millions of dollars, and that's why there are specific systems to control fiscal metering. So basically, there are very expensive and flow meters from those vendors, and then there are flow computers. The flow computers, for example, the Daniel Denpak, now it's called Emerson Flow BOSS. It's one of the most popular computers for fiscal metering. So it's a big computer. And the idea of this computer is just to calculate the quantity of oil based on different parameters, like pressure, temperature, and stuff like that. Those computers, I think that security of those computers is mostly through obscurity because nobody have real access to those devices. But if somebody can have access to this device, I'm pretty sure that it's vulnerable. But the idea is not here. The idea is like, okay, we have this flow computer, but the data from this flow computer is sent to some accounting system, which is controlled by SAP and Oracle, stuff like that. So we can change this data somewhere in a data aggregation system, and so on. And there are some of the systems which mentioned here have internet accesses. Some of them have access to, for example, business applications like SAP systems. So they're not just inside some operation technology network. They have real connections to the outside world. And the last critical process is oil storage. It also consists of the different parts like meters. Then we have tank gouging systems, and then we have tank inventory system. We have different tanks. We need to collect this information from tanks. And then we have terminal management systems which control tank inventory systems. And those systems are connected with business applications like SAP. So this is briefly how it looks like. We have different tanks and how the things are going. So for example, here we can see that the tank master server, and this server is sending information to some client engineering, and then this information by Ethernet using OPC client going to somewhere else. And some of the tank inventory systems not only allows you to view information, but they allow you to control, like change the alarm levels and so on. And to finalize the part of the physical part is the question of how attackers can get access can understand what are the systems implemented in the particular company. That's very easy. You can just open the website of any company like Honeywell and look at the press releases like, we implemented this X system to ZZZ company. And there's so many information on the LinkedIn and success stories and stuff like that. So now let's talk about the enterprise applications, because the idea of this talk is to show how the critical operation technology processes are connected with enterprise business applications. And we have mostly it's SAP and Oracle, and SAP is installed in 86% of oil and gas, with Fortune 2000 oil and gas companies. But this is a more important thing. 70 million barrels of oil per day is controlled by SAP systems. And do you know how much oil produced per day totally? It's 94 million. So it's 75% of all oil production controlled by SAP systems. I think it's kind of a critical part. And SAP systems, they have many business applications to manage oil and gas. They have great presentation that what kind of areas they control. And I need to do presentation more quicker, but so many slides, and you can find the white paper and the presentation. So I'll just stop on the most critical things. So 4 parts which are managed by SAP. Basically, the capital spend and effectiveness is not very interesting. This part is interesting is hydrocarbon supply chain. So there are some SAP systems like SAP ECC for oil and SAP XMII, which designed to manage production and revenue and so on. And there's a SAP digital oil field operations, and consists of the different systems listed here. they're also involved in metering, storage, and so on. And operational integrity is asset management systems. They collect information about the different assets. So they need to have some connections to operation technology network. And Oracle also have many things in operation technology. So this is the one of the main slides. Is like how business applications are connected with operation technology areas. So we have project management systems which connected to exploration systems. We have asset lifecycle management, which connected to refinery and separation, because you need to control the data. We have LIMS systems and different tank master systems like SAP for oil and gas and SAP XMI. And this the part for the tank management, it will be our demonstration basically. So how we can manage the oil storage based on the SAP systems. So in very simple system, the company infrastructure look like that. So how different SAP systems connected with outside world and how they connected with operation technology. And it is a very simple example, and you can imagine how complex it can be. So there are at least 5 different ways how attackers can get access to operation technology network from enterprise network. So if people think that there is an air gap between operation technology and enterprise, no, it's not, and there are so many ways. And the idea of this presentation is to show you what kind of ways we have. So how we can do something. But let's start. First of all, we need to get access from the internet to enterprise network. This is the list of presentations, my old presentations about different vulnerabilities in SAP internet resources like SAP Portal, how to hack SAP router. It's also internet-facing applications, how to exploit the Trojans. So all the things, there's so many things how we can exploit SAP systems to get inside a company. Okay, when you're inside, you can exploit different ERP security issues like vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and custom code issues. Also, I don't want to waste many time on this area. I just will tell you that SAP applications have 3,500 vulnerabilities totally. And every month, SAP release patches for 20 to 30 new vulnerabilities. It's pretty much. So it's not a problem to understand how we get access to SAP system. For Oracle, it's more or less the same. Misconfigurations. So SAP systems are so complex. There are hundreds of different web services, web applications, and so on that can be used to exploit the system. And custom code issues. Again, the systems, the business applications are customizable, and every company can develop their own transactions, and especially in the specific industries, they can develop their own transactions and programs to manage production and storage and metering and so on. And those programs can have vulnerabilities. So if you're interested in the SAP security, you can just open erpscan.com, and there's 50 presentations on this area. But and yeah, I think that now it's start with the technical part. So how we can get access to business application like ERP system to operation technology network. I think you will start here.
Okay, Thanks, Alex. So Alex talked us about different problem risk in the industrial process in the for oil and gas extraction. And he explained us that SAP ERP system are connected to those systems. So now we'll see, we have a focus on some concrete examples and vulnerabilities we found and how we can get down from the high-level SAP business suite to the plant, the industrial process, also known as OT. Operational technology. So the main picture is like this. So we have a lot of vulnerabilities for the SAP business suites. It's like hypothesis. We already own some ERP system at this level. And we see that there is a connection with SAP MII. So it's like, I will talk a little bit about that later, but it's a component of SAP that is bridging the plant and the business world. And after SAP MII, you have SAP Plant Connectivity and HANA, and that we will focus on those kind of on those systems and the problem inherent that we found. So you can see that there are several vectors, attack vectors, to get from the top to the bottom. So we identify one interesting vector is from MII PCO, and we get down to the SCADA world. And another vector will be from HANA to get to the PCO and then SCADA. So what we need to hack, it's now. Oh yeah, I miss as well Oracle. It's a big player, but anyway, we need to have to hack Oracle, AAM, SAP HANA, SAP MII, SAP PCO, and then we will get to the plants. So okay. So with Oracle Enterprise Asset Management, now you have a kind of e-business suite platform that has already a bunch of known vulnerabilities. So we in the company we disclosed several big vulnerabilities like XSS, SQLI, XXE, and user enumeration vulnerabilities. So you have the link for that. So now we will focus on quickly on HANA. Not far. So HANA, it's what a database in memory. It's the connection in the product or Rolta on view. There is a connection between HANA and SAP PCO. They implemented something like that. So it's a configuration where we can get access if we own HANA to SAP PCO and then the plants. The attack surface of HANA is like we have several connection between different systems. There is a SAP RFC connections, and of course inherent HANA vulnerabilities. The thing is, we just 2 months ago in September released we found a memory corruption that gets to remote code execution in the HGB index server of HANA. It's the core component of the database. So it's that kind of vulnerability gets a very high CVSS score, and it's quite bad, and that gets us to the full control of this kind of server. So yeah, of course, SAP has patched the vulnerabilities, and you can apply this SAP note, and you will find everything to get things fixed. So that's good. Now another vector was to get to SAP MII and then PCO and then the plant. So the focus on SAP MII, it's so what is MII? Because there's a lot of acronyms. If you're not very in this in ERP world, it could be a nightmare to understand all. So MII, it's manufacturing integration and intelligence. So it's the bridge between manufacturing and enterprise business. to get a view of, for instance, production performance to people that are less technical. So it sits on SAP Network G2EE platform with its vulnerabilities. It's a big platform with a lot of stuff. MII will you will have, for instance, it's XAPPS technology. So it's a SAP technology to that's expose web services and can use and data from multiple systems. There's a quite big exposure surface with MII. This component is on the corporate network. It's not on the other side. It's still not on the OT. And the main application is named XAPPS MII ears. It's where a bunch of code, interested code is. And the kind of, if you want to get access to the MII stuff in the server, you will point your browser to this URL. It's the beginning of a pen test, for instance. So MII has some vulnerabilities. Actually, there is a blind SQLi that gets us to the admin password of the instance, but we can't disclose now the details. It has not been fixed yet, and XXA vulnerabilities as well. So we can suppose now that on MII, with this vulnerability, we have admin access on the NetViewer platform. Okay, so that's the slide with the attack surface. We focus on the vulnerabilities that are inherent to the NetViewer platform. So what can we do? We have admin access. We would like, it will be very useful if we could get OS execution access. So we find something very interesting with the admin access of the NetViewer platform. There is a feature that is in the log viewer of the platform that enables you to connect to a remote system. So I was interested in what's this feature. So we can set an IP, a port, and apparently there's a hard-coded protocol, sub instance agents. Yeah. So I put my an IP under my control. I open a socket on my laptop, and I see what I get. So the thing is, the MEE will send a SOAP request to my laptop. He will send me nicely authorization basic header, and if I decode this header, I see a very strange username, quite long, looking like a UUID, and a password that's quite, or not quite random, but anyway. So what can I do with this information? It looks very interesting, but I don't really know yet. So with some research, you understand that the port it was connected, the default port he tried to connect to, 513. It's a common port in SAP server to get control. It exposes a SOAP interface on all the servers, and it gets you control like a process list instance, start, stop, that kind of control, overall control about the instances. So it's like this kind of connection should be used within trusted SAP server inside the cluster. We can have a SAP cluster. This SOAP interface exposes several methods, and one method that was very interesting was the OS execute method. Of course, it gets my interest, and so the thing is, OS execute need to be authenticated. Usually, this SOAP intercept server, you need to have the OS username and password to get through the authentication to the SOAP service. In this case, this strange username and password gets you as well. You don't need to know the OS username and password that runs the top server. So you can get execution with this strange username, and on the server it will be executed by the OS user that's running the SOAP server. It's not root, of course, but it's the SAP user that is running the everything. MEE ADM in the case of MEE server. So with that kind of stuff, we can quickly upload a backdoor, because I can run the shell command. So I will upload my backdoor, run it, get a remote shell, and that's the beginning for another step to hack a PCO. So just a little comment about when I have a shell access on the MEE server, I can get some information like, okay, the database password, they are encrypted with some file inside the file, but in another file in the same directory, you will find the key to the encrypted file. So with that, you can decrypt the Sybase, the database super administrator, and several SAP specific accounts. So it's always good, but our interest is to get down to the plant. So we want we will interest now to the PCO application. So it's the PCO is hosted on the OT network, and what it is. So it's SAP plant connectivity PCO. It's the bridge between a manufacturing module of SAP. So it's not only MII, but we are interested with MII. It's a Windows box. PCO is coded in .NET. It's a .NET application. Okay, so, and it's used the logic of usual pipeline. You have sources, you define sources, destination, and you will have some filtering, some analyzing, and you will get information from the sources to the destination. So it's kind of proxy for MII, from the information from the OPC server in the plant PLC and MII. The sources are OPC server. Basically like Matricon, I quote the most used, so Siemens Simatic and Keep Server X, or you can have directly DCS system as well, defined as sources. But we will look at sources like OPC servers. And the destination could be HANA, like we said, or XI, SAP MEE, and other systems. Each when you have a source which is connected to a destination, well, you could have several instances that are named agents. They are technically Windows services, so a process running the service, and they do the polling and the routing of the information between source and destination. Okay, so PCO, the attack surface now of PCO is like, of course, like usual inner vulnerabilities of PCOs, but you have actually you have a connection between MEE and PCO. And in some configuration, when you are setting your PCO server as a query mode, you will have a server listening on PCO and MEE sending requests. On the other side, you could have a notification mode, and in this case, that will be PCO that will send to a server listening on MII information about the plant's processes. So we were interested by the query mode of PCO, because then there is a socket, a server listening on PCO, and we have full control on MII, so it's like a good use case. Okay. So the thing is, we are in this configuration on the query process where MII sends query to a PCO to get information about the plant process. And the thing is, when you configure, when you add a new data server PCO inside MII, they ask you to enter a username and password. You don't have the choice. Well, this username password is required to get access to the SOAP interface of PCO to get control over the agents, start, stop, dump configuration. The thing is, well, this authentication requires it's the Windows users and Windows password on PCO. So it's stored we found that it's stored inside the MEE database in some table. But the thing is, it's 3 days encrypted. And what is the key? So having a look at what's going on, it's stored inside a service that's called secure storage inside MI. And this thing is quite well designed, and you cannot so easily get to the triple desk key if you're not the ME application. But the thing is, we noticed that inside ME, you can have a control over the encryption used inside the database for the PCO credentials. And we saw that, okay, apparently base 64 is authorized like an encryption method. So it's cool. And then we get, we have access to the database of MAE. We can get the base 64 password and decode it and get the Windows users of PCO. This thing has been fixed recently very quickly by SAP this month actually with this SAP node. So the base 64 is not anymore allowed as an encryption method. And okay, so another the kind of service that are interesting to look at that are running in PCO are the SOAP remote administration interface that I briefly talked about, that's running on the port 550, and which gets you access to the configuration of the PCO. And it's very good because inside you can have, depending of your configuration of the PCO, you can find another type, other passwords and RFC links. So it's very interesting. And there is an interesting point, the 9000s, that's the port listening to get requests from the ME server. So using XML protocol over XML, they call it XMI protocol. And of course, if the box is not properly firewalled, you will have access to the 445, and with our credentials, it will be a piece of cake to own PCO. Okay, so the kind of attacks that are interesting now, it's like we can build a fake PCO and kill the actual PCO and shows in MI that everything is going okay. Or so it's like a DOS. Or something else, it's like doing a man in the middle with our fake server that will transmit the data to the real PCO server and just do some slight modification on the request and answer. So concretely, it means like if you have a monitoring interface on the MII, I will show it later, but because maybe without a picture it's difficult to get it. But you can build some monitoring interface on MII that will show you the level of your tank and that kind of production information. So we can manipulate that information and to show on the operator that's looking at MII that everything is going good, while the tank is going, tank level is going down. Okay, on the 9000 ports, there are several protocol attacks. We did some fuzzing, found some DOS memory exhaustion. Those problems they have been fixed just a week ago by SAP. So it's in this note. And so it means that now we have some control about what's going on the OT network, and that's really a good point. We get down like we wanted. So PCO is interacting with OPC servers, We found in the internet that often people ask, okay, I have problem with my configuration with OPC that use DECOM, and it's getting complicated. And on the SAP help forum, no, someone answered that you know that if you install all on the same box, it will be much easier. You won't have any DECOM problems. So that kind of stuff is like okay, for us it's quite good in the term of an attacker point of view. Okay, and now I can show you a little demo. It's like how to say that?
So basically, so what was here is just we have access to PCO using some kind of vulnerabilities in MI and so on. And as you saw on the internet, there are people really implement the OPC servers on the same Windows box as a PCO. And OPC servers will basically collect data from the PLC devices. So if you hack PCO, you're inside the OT network, you have direct access to OPC devices and to PLC devices, sorry. Yeah. And so the PLC devices, they control most of the production, and they use, like Modbus protocol. So it's like just sending simple packets without any authentication to control them. So it basically, if you hack PCO, you're like inside the OT network, and the only thing you need to know is like the details of some existing process. And yeah, and our example is so we have a configuration. You will continue? Or?
Yeah, just show the demo. And
yeah. So our demonstration is the full process of we have like a tank. Yeah, okay. You can continue.
It's okay, so as a proof of concept, we connected the SAP MII to SAP OPC, and then we have SAP MII is connected to SAP PCO, which is connected to OPC server. And this OPC server is getting information, is speaking to S7 Siemens PLC, and is speaking with Siemens protocol, ISO protocol. So what we show is that we can learn what the ME operator is viewing by spoofing and sending OPC fake data. So we have a first phase where we learn the information about the level of the water jauge. In our case, it's water in the office, but we can imagine that it's oil. First we learn how the level is, and then we'll get control about the valve, which is opening the water tank, and we will fake the information that the level is still steady like it was a minute before. So if you, okay, good, and play pause this. Okay, yeah, there we go. So on the wait, we don't see all the. Can you manage to? It's not like full screen. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Anyway, yeah, like this was good. It's not very important that we saw all the stands. So on the left we have our MEE supervision dashboard cockpit that shows us the level of the tank that you see on the right side. And the level now is quite full, 24,000 gallons. And we will on the normal operation mode, we open maybe you don't see it, but the water is flowing, and you see that the cockpit on the MI shows that the level is going down, so everything normal. And the status valve is this red square. Okay, that's hidden by the, okay. So the valve is opened up, I close the valve, and now, okay, now I have a client, my own PCO client on the MEE server, though it's quite raw and, but it's for the just demonstration, for the proof of concept. So my client is sending a request to get the oil level, and I will start a server, a fake PCO server that will spoof queries answer to MEE and will give him this oil level. I have admin access to the MEE, so I change the PCO in the configuration, the PCO server, and it should be pointed to localhost because I'm on the MEE server, and I will begin to receive frames from the MEE query process. And so we see now that it's our fakes message that are displayed on the interface. I will open with my simple client. I'll open the valve. The water will flow down. Now the water is flowing down, and the level is still, doesn't move. Okay, water flowing, cool. And then, okay, I close the valve. I replace the real server just to see that, okay, it's what is the real level now. And you see that, okay, we just emptied the tank, and it shouldn't, we shouldn't change that and get far. But yeah, well, that's the demonstration of this kind of attack. So Alex, you maybe want to...
Yeah, that's some overviews. Yeah, that was just an example how we can, manipulate the quantity of oil in the tank. So the idea is to show, basically the idea of all presentation is to show that there are some connections, many different connections from enterprise network into operational technology network. And in oil and gas, there are so many processes that you can, control by those things. So just to name a few things what can happen, because the name of the talk was how hackers can control the oil stocks, and you saw this kind of a backdoor how we can tell the decision makers how much oil we have, but in reality we will have much less. And if you know that the SCP control the 75% of oil production. So if you manage to upload this malware to every company and just a little bit change the quantity of oil in stocks for every company, just a little bit. So that's how we can hackers really manipulate oil stocks, because if companies think that there's less oil, that they have, the price for oil will be higher, and vice versa. And another attack vector which is possible, it's plant equipment sabotage, and even without having vulnerability in equipment, you have asset management systems which designed to control, to tell you how many problems in specific equipment. So you can send a report that there is a problem in equipment in some very remote facility. In oil and gas, it will be some offshore platform is in the middle of nowhere. So that's how you can, and you can say in the system that there's a problem here, so the company will send people to this offshore facility to do something, but there is no problem, so they will spend money and time and so on. And the plant destruction basically can happen, for example, with the burner management system. How to secure that, protect business applications, and review all connections, and of course secure connections, and don't include the critical infrastructure or PCO systems into domain, because sometimes it's we saw that they're included into domain because there's specific configuration need for that, and they're included in domain, but it's not really required. And so, final thing, what the hell it was. For researchers, now you guys know how what are the different business processes and what are different systems in oil and gas. It's a big landscape for new research, and it's a whole new universe. For pen testers, now you know when you have pen test for oil and gas company, you can try to get access to OT network, or you can at least tell your companies, it's not just like, I have access to operation system, I have a shell access. No, you can say, we have access to this technology and we can do this, this, and that. And for chief security officers, guys, now you know that there are connections between business critical applications and OT, and we listed some of them, and you can, now you know at least how to secure those systems. So thanks for listening to this presentation. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks, Messi.